Welcome to the Play at 3 podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Tisha Poncio, and I'm here with my co-host, Rick. And today, we got on our pre-show planning meeting, and I don't know, Rick just was on a roll, and I started thinking, why is he not hitting record? So we've hit record in the middle of him talking about a topic that you may have seen in your doom scrolling. That of the idea that Gen Z is showing, how do I say it, less intelligence than the previous generation, and it's the first generation that's happened.
Basically the titles, which I feel are very clickbaity, as per usual for most media, is that Gen Z is the first generation to have a lower IQ than the previous generations, in a nutshell.
So that's interesting. Gen Z. When we're talking about, we have the Gen Z desk. That is Jace's age group. It actually is. I have 3 kids ranging from the ages of like 26 to 16. So that's their entire generation. So interesting that... Oh, does it say anything about Gen Alpha? See, this is how, if you're listening and you've just tuned in and we just like right off the bat went to it, it's because Rick got on our pre-meeting and said, I've sent you a YouTube video.
Yep.
And it's about Gen Z being the first generation in modern history to show lower cognitive abilities. Cognitive abilities include attention, literacy, and numeracy than their parents. And I'm guessing that the YouTube former teacher, now neuroscientist, which is fascinating to me because I don't think I've ever told you that, obviously I'm a former teacher, but I wanted to go back to school to study like the way the brain works. And if I got my doctorate, I feel like it would be in something completely different that nobody would expect me to get my doctorate in, if that makes sense. So this is fascinating. He's a former teacher. Is the YouTube video that you pulled up, is the doctor's name Jared Cooney Horvath?
It's a very, very good question. I am not very familiar. So for context, Tish literally told me to press record on something that I am only just starting to learn about.
because again, our Play at 3 podcast,
Jared Cooney Horvath. Yes.
Our Play at 3 podcast is not. This isn't about us being the experts of everything. This is about us bringing conversations and current event topics and creating a stage for people in the education space to discuss and learn and be curious. So I am correcting you as your co-host, co-author today and telling you
moderator.
We don't have to know. Yeah, we don't have to know everything about all the topics we bring to the stage.
It's about bringing awareness to these things that have actually been brought up in day-to-day everything. So first off, I want to apologize to our listeners if you're hearing me banging my mouse around. I always tell Tisha off for doing that, and there's me doing it. So I apologize for any noises that I might be making.
Well, they're not listening
for
the ASMR, okay?
No, they're
Rick?
not. They're really not. They're really not. So I will stop that. But I got the information that I needed. First off, as you asked, it is Professor, I had the name here, Professor Jared Cooney.
We're just going to call him Dr. Jared. That's what we're going to refer to him on this podcast. Keep it simple. Dr. Jared.
Yes.
And he's essentially really just saying that his argument is that this decline is from an over-reliance on technology and screens in schools, calling it failed pedagogical experiment. That's a fascinating way to
I'm going to come out immediately and say I agree that we have an excessive use of technology in schools compared to previous generations. However, he's looking at it in a narrow system. What I mean by that is if you're just targeting schools, go and have a look at, okay, how many kids did you see at a restaurant or out and about who are 5 years old on an iPad, on a phone or whatever? I remember when about 14 years ago, a 3-year-old knew how to use YouTube on a tablet better than I did.
I'm going to give you some
14 years ago.
context.
So
Where
does that
here.
get them?
Hold
That
on.
gets them into high school level.
I want you to rewind. I want you to pull back a little bit, Rick. Okay, just pull back for a minute.
I just want to say that
I've opened a
you've
can
got
of
me
worms.
off. You've got me on my high horse beforehand, and now you're, go
unintentionally getting you on your high horse.
Hit record.
Here's the thing: people need to be on their high horse about certain things. I believe that.
Yes.
But I'm going to give you the scope of my experience because I told you, and you know this, my kids range from 26 to 16. In addition to that, I have been teaching before and after social media, before the one-to-one device, before, we've talked about on the podcast, the cows. I think we talked about that with Alyssa, aka Farmer Fobs, the computer on wheels that were going into the classrooms. I've taught before and after that. And a lot of our listeners have as well. Here's what I will tell you. Jace was using an iPad at like 15 months. Okay. Now, I want you to scale back for a minute. Look, I wish you could see Rick's face if you're watching the video because he's hot on this topic and that's awesome. But I want you to scale back for a minute, Rick. Okay.
Yeah.
Every generation before. Okay. And I'm going to say our generation because I'm like a zennial. I'm Gen X, but really I lean more towards millennial, and you are more Gen X than I am, I would say. It's kind of like you're more Texan than I am, and I'm more Brit probably than you are. It's like,
yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. So I want you to kind of scale back for a second and go, oh, like if you hold on, I haven't even completed
I'm
my
breathing.
thought.
You tell me to take a step breath. I'm just
You're already having to do the breathing
to get myself off my high horse so that I can bring myself back.
Yes,
as you're asking me to. So please continue.
So just want you to pull back for a minute because every generation in history, every generation has messed up. Okay, I want to be clear. Every generation before and after our generation has messed up. We can look at every generation and we could blame them for some issue that the generation after them has had. Okay. Yeah. And that's the case across the board.
Yes.
I think what is interesting about this is you're talking about the parents. And on the one hand, I am a parent, so I can talk about this. I'm also a teacher, former teacher, been in the classroom. Like I feel like I can speak to these things. There are things that I showed up with technology-wise with my kids and things that I taught them that you could be critical of. I gave Jason an iPad when he was 18 months old. And the thing about it is I was really trying to better understand the idea of, did he know how to use this device that I've told him nothing about at such a young age? And so quickly he picked it up that you tap the iPad screen and something's going to happen. And there were all of these games that were really geared towards his age of learning. With the girls, I gave them technology early on, with lots of caveats and with lots of boundaries. And it was like all generations are going to say, it was well intended. I was not trying to use it as a babysitter, per your point previously. However, I understand that I'm a unique case. I was looking at it from an educator perspective. I was looking at it from a parental perspective. And because I am so interested naturally on how the brain works, I was looking at it from all these angles. But what I can tell you is, yeah, there were a lot of instances, and still are, where technology is being used as a filler, not just for kids, but for adults, for all of us. And so I think it's really important that we take a step back and look at that and really take in trying not to be blameful on it. Now, I understand, like, I'm the first as a teacher, listen, I've always said the parenting and all the things they learn start at home. In the classroom, it's just an extension of that, right? And so
Absolutely.
here's the
Absolutely.
thing. You're absolutely right, is that parents have sort of set up this idea that this is how we're going to use technology. And then they're going into the classrooms, and then the teachers are having difficulty getting the students engaged and using the technology in
Mhm.
the right way. And yeah, I think parents play a huge role. And I think that there are so many parents. So see, I'm getting very human here on this, but there are a lot of parents who don't have the support as they're raising kids that you would expect. There are lots of single moms raising kids. There's lots of circumstances there. So there's lots of reasons that the kids aren't getting the parenting. But I also think that there is something else to it. So I want you to hear me on this. And I'm speaking from perspective. So my parents, because we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, my parents were very strict.
Mm.
Borderlining, if I sat down with you and told you some of the things that happened in my home growing up, you would probably say that's abusive. Like I like on a totally serious note.
Yeah.
So, because of what I experienced as a kid, when I became a parent, I shifted how things worked. And
Mm.
so I didn't do certain things because they were maybe overly uh uh strict. It's
They were
hard
they
for
were
me
too
to.
they were too much. It was
Yeah.
too much, and
So I
that's
didn't do a lot of that, but what I think you'll see is I think as you study the generations, just like technology, it is a pendulum and it's swinging like in extreme ways because like, oh, I don't want my kids to grow up the way that I grew up. So now I'm going to
mm,
provide these things. My dad did the same thing for me. He was like, I didn't have these things growing up, so now I'm going to give my kids these things,
yeah.
materialist things.
Yep.
I think with the generation that you are referring to that have raised Gen Z kids, it is you can't fault people for not doing a great job with technology if they didn't have anything to follow, if that makes sense. It was like it was new for all of us. So nobody had the book, nobody had the manual on how do we, we live in the ed tech space and I was in the ed tech space for a long time and there were
Mm,
so many resources and so many discussions and I was offering free technology classes for parents because I knew it was so important for them to understand it. They couldn't support and teach something if they didn't know what it was themselves. And I think that is where it happened. But I also think that because the technology was new and shiny and awesome, you then had all of these things happening policy-wise and in schools. And so it was like, okay, we're going to give everybody a laptop. We're going to give everybody an iPad. Everybody gets a tablet and that's good, right? But I always say something that is good, there's always going to be a moment where it crosses over into not good. And so it's
yeah.
finding that balance, right? And
Absolutely.
and I think that is part of it. But you also bring up this idea, and I actually emailed you this week and said, "Hey, I want to talk about cursive writing, and I want to talk about the the reason that I think it's so fantastic that people can write in cursive and read in cursive." And it goes back to this because he's saying there's lower cognitive abilities, attention, literacy, numeracy. I would even include the fact that these kids have done everything on a device. They can't
Mhm.
read or write in cursive, and they weren't
Absolutely, I
taught in
completely agree with you.
schools.
My
So,
just to I completely agree with you on your approach when it comes to parenting and how technology has been introduced. Millennials
mhm,
were the first generation to
yeah,
see that transition. They
mhm,
were the ones that actually went through that transition as
mhm.
kids. And my issue with what uh, I've already forgotten his name and I don't care.
Dr. Jared,
Dr. Jared, thank you. Um, is pointing at
we do care.
he's It's when they blame the education system to everything.
Okay, but Rick, we wrote a book. We wrote a book saying that the education system hasn't changed since the 1900s.
It hasn't changed since the 1900s, but the thing is, when we're talking about the education system hasn't changed since the 1900s, we're saying that it hasn't changed from rows and columns, teacher at the front, kids sat there listening. That is still the system. With technology or without technology, it's still the same system.
Yeah,
My
agreed.
issue is down to technology has caused the next generation to have a lower IQ, inability to do things, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, like you pointed out, you handed Jace a tablet at 18 months. The issue that I see is not necessarily I'm giving you an iPad, but what are they using that specific device for? For
Okay.
me, technology is the best thing for me because it's allowed me to open up my creative abilities,
Mm-hmm.
my challenge my problem solving skills, and widen my knowledge on what I can do. I didn't get a mobile phone until I was 11 years old, and
Mm-hmm.
that was it had a screen that was a slither. It wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
smartphone, it had physical keypad, all that kind of stuff. It was a big phone. I mean, it had an aerial on it. That's how old we're going
Sure.
back. It's not your big bricks kind of thing, but it was still an old phone. I didn't get my first smartphone until I was at least 16, 17 or something. That was first version of Android.
Mm-hmm.
So the level of technology and the ease of use that technology has brought in didn't come to me until later.
Mm-hmm.
But for Gen Z and Gen Alpha, that has been made available
Mm-hmm.
from day one.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I know
And
about child development is you had the upper hand because all of your formative years did not include technology. But
exactly.
for these new generations, their formative years have included these screens.
But my issue is, what are those devices being used for when they're in that initial from uh, 6 months, 1 year, 18-month-old to the point they're going into school when they're 5 years old?
I mean, you
What are they
can't
actually being used for? And the problem that I have is, if they're not having the implementation of what every single generation has had from parents or from those around them. I'm not going to silo it into parents. I'm going to just say those around them. If they have not had that input at the very beginning, before they go to school, they're going to continue that into school, because the biggest points where
I agree.
children can learn is those first few years
Mm-hmm.
before they even go into school. I mean, I know a kid who their grandmother was a former teacher, and she would literally sit with him when he was
Mm-hmm.
very young, going through, talking, identifying what certain words related to what objects, giving that cognitive load to learn there and then. And you can do that with a screen. You can learn with a screen. When I say screen, people probably assume a laptop, tablet, or phone. There's a TV. I remember as a kid watching kids shows on TV. We also know that the noise, and when I talk about noise, I'm talking visual and sound, that
Mm-hmm.
come from kids shows today is very, very loud, very vibrant,
Did you
very
know?
energetic.
Oh, did you
But
know?
older kids shows, the
Yes.
ones that I used to
Yes.
watch, are
Yes.
more
This is what I was gonna
slower.
say. I was
They're a
gonna
lot
say this.
slower.
Yes. If you really take a moment and instead of like doom scrolling to like take in information for yourself, if you just instead shift how you're taking in the information, one of the things I've noticed is that the videos, the short form videos, the TikToks, the Instagram reels, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
the videos and the people who are creating the videos even are using this framing of it has to be fast, it has to be flashy, it has to be loud, it has to be in your face, it
Mm-hmm.
has to be this, and I find that those videos I will scroll right past them because they already put my nervous system in like a spiral and I'm not going to take in
Yeah.
anything. And you are right. I think there needs to be more research on that. When you look at like TV programs like Sesame Street and Reading Rainbow, and even some of the like Blues Clues, specifically with Steve,
Yeah.
like that is what I guarantee the research on those TV programs. I know, I agree with you. They supported our learning. I was able to turn on the TV and watch Sesame Street for a couple of minutes, and it was slow and it was easy, and
Mhm.
it was like you could reflect on what you're learning, and it was fun, and but it was slow pace. I bet even some of the cartoons, like I told you a couple of weeks ago, that getting ready every morning in high school, I would watch DuckTales, I would watch
Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Mhm.
Sometimes I would watch specifically the Winnie the Pooh on Disney, where they were in the giant like costumes. It was slow. It was learning. It
Yeah.
was lessons. It was you and I talked about situational comedies and how there are less and
Mhm.
less situational comedies to learn the behaviors, to learn how to approach certain situations. And
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think the shift in all of it isn't just the technology, but the shift in everything has resulted in this. And it's interesting because it says it's not the student's fault. He's emphasizing that the decline isn't a personal failure of Gen Z. Like, yeah, why would we blame them?
No, you
But we
can't.
are. Some people are blaming them, right?
Yeah.
It's actually the result of systemic educational policy changes. And this is what I'm saying. So it's interesting that you brought this up because I posted the other day about cursive writing.
Mhm.
And I have felt very passionate about this for a while, and I will blame my neurodivergence on, like, I talk about it a lot. I'll get really into researching something that like cursive writing. And one of our guests, Aileen Wallace, messaged me and said, I don't understand why cursive writing is such a big deal. Like, I don't understand, like, she was reading my post and I was saying I was so lucky to be able to have learned how to write in cursive and also read cursive. And the reason I brought
Yes.
it up is because my kids, none of them, maybe Maddie, maybe the oldest, but they cannot read my cursive writing. So when I get them birthday cards and I write them a note, I have to be very mindful to print so that they can read it,
Mm.
which is hard for me because I naturally write in cursive.
Yeah.
And so it started I started thinking after Aileen messaged me, like, okay, why does it matter so much? And I know internally why, but I have sometimes difficulty
Putting
articulating
it
why.
into words, yes.
Yes. Thank you, ADHD and neurodivergence.
This is why you
But
have me as a co-host.
I know, I know. You can you're like the Tisha translator.
Exactly.
Okay, so here's why it's important. Brain development and learning. This goes back to what we were talking about in the younger years, the formative learning years. The cursive handwriting and doing it and learning it creates neural pathways. And you and I have talked about neural pathways a lot.
Mm.
Different habits, changing your systems, you're rewiring your brain because your brain is the biggest and best computer that you could ever even encounter. So, cursive writing integrates fine motor skills, visual processing, language, memory. It's linked to better fluency and stronger spelling and improved idea generation. And you think about it, you and I have had these talks. I've said, Rick, write that down. And you're like, okay, but I have it in my head, or I typed it on my computer. And I'm like,
Yeah.
we've debated
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
And I'm
Yeah, we
like,
have.
that's great. Write it down, write it on a sticky note, write it in a
Mm.
journal. The minute that you take an idea from your brain and you write it down, it slows down the thinking and it slows down the learning, just like we were talking about
Yes.
with the TV programs.
Yes. Mhm.
And so because you're focused on it, and it's forcing you to kind of be able to connect not just the letters, but connect the ideas that you're having and
Mhm.
connect the words. And then you get into like storytelling and you're recognizing words faster, and the phonics patterns will flow easier and you spell better. I really believe in this. And so essentially Aileen was asking me, like, well, what happened to it? Because I think you told me it's still taught in schools. Is that
Well,
right?
it was when I was at school, so I know cursive, but um, it might not be. I've not really investigated it much. It could be a dying art, really.
Did you know that it reduces hand fatigue also?
I did not know that.
Because it's a flow, like I have my little this is my my office fountain pen. But if you think about it, there is a flow to how you write. So it's flowing. But if I have to print, I'm having to take time and use more pressure
Mm-hmm.
when I'm printing. But did you also know that cursive writing supports students with learning differences, especially dyslexia, dysgraphia, and ADHD? Did you know that?
Mm-hmm. I did
You
not.
did. You did know it, or you didn't know
I did
it.
not know it.
And why? Because you have fewer pen lifts when you are writing cursive, and you have fewer opportunities to lose your place. And there's a rhythm and a flow. So I don't know if you can hear it. Can you hear me
Yeah,
right?
I can hear you
So
right.
so give me something to write and you'll hear kind of the pattern, the rhythm, and the flow. What would you like for me to write?
I don't know if you start with my name is Tisha, just to see.
That
And
is me writing in cursive.
and Tisha said this wasn't gonna be an ASMR episode.
I know. I manifested it. But could you hear the rhythm in my writing
Yes.
and the flow?
Yes.
Okay, now I'm going to do my name is Tisha in print.
I'm really hoping that that this doesn't get cut out in editing, as in the audio gets altered to make it not be
Well,
heard, but it shouldn't be
but
anyway.
but but you can explain to the audience, what did you hear and what was the difference in me writing my name is Tisha in print and my name is Tisha in cursive?
Yeah, so if this doesn't actually get heard, but my interpretation of it, when you're writing in cursive, you can feel there's actually a bit of emotion that comes to it. You
Yes.
got that feeling that comes through because it's
Yes.
constantly like when we're talking ourselves, when we
Yes.
communicate, we're not just going. So this is what I'm going to
Mhm.
talk.
It's
We're
like very
actually
choppy.
we're ebbing and flowing through our
The flow.
speech. It's like singing. It's the same thing.
Yes.
And with
It's an
cursive, it's
art.
that same
Mhm.
flow. It goes and ebbs and flows as you're moving between the letters. Whereas when you were writing in just block letters,
Mhm.
it just seems dull. It's that
Yes.
same process. Now, for me, I do a mixture of cursive and block.
Mhm.
So not all my letters join up. I don't know if there's a set way that I do it or there's
Well,
rules
I
that I
think over
put in. I just
time,
find it's
don't
with ease.
don't you think over time, and if you think about it, there are these writing like scientists too that can tell you so much about the way that you're writing and how your S, maybe you lift the pen at a certain, there's a lot about your personality just with your writing. However, I want to come back to this. So Aileen said, why is it a big deal to be able, are you still doing it? And I said, no. So I did some research. Why did US schools stop teaching cursive writing? After No Child Left Behind in 2001, the instructional time shifted to reading, math, and tested subjects. Typing was seen as more practical. So no more keyboard, no more typing class. Like typewriter, or writing class, it was now shifting. And then
Hmm.
because of the curriculum and the time cuts, they had to choose, are we going to keep doing cursive or are we going to now implement technology? This is all to your point because those
Mm,
kids, right? The Gen Z kids are entering school, like 2004, probably 3 or 4, depending on how old they are.
yep.
So that's when they were starting school. So schools had to choose between cursive writing and technology skills. And cursive, the importance was lost because guess why? Guess why cursive was lost?
Tell
This
me.
won't surprise you. It wasn't tested and it wasn't required in the standards.
Now that's the biggest problem, is the curriculum standards have dictated how schools should behave, and
Yes.
this is
Yes.
where
Yes.
the problem I have is education gets pointed at, and
I know.
the automatic trigger is point the blame at the teachers. But the
But
issue
that's not
is that
it.
teachers are not the problem.
They're
And this,
not the one.
I will
Yes.
advocate for, I've
Say
never
it
been a
again
teacher, but
for
I
the
will
people in the
never
back.
advocate. I will always advocate for a teacher. Everyone, whenever an education is to blame, the automatic finger pointing is at the educator, at the teacher, and it never is them that's causing the problem. They are
not.
controlled by the curriculum, they are controlled by the district, and they seem to get blamed
They
for
became
they are the
scapegoats.
responsibility. Yeah, it's
Listen,
like the teacher is the responsibility of everybody else's kid.
and this is
No,
why.
not
This is
I do
why.
not agree with that.
And this is
In
why
any
you and
shape or
I
form.
and the Played 3 podcast and we are always going to advocate for the teachers because we know.
Damn straight.
Here's the thing. In 2010, if you remember in our research for the book, Common Core is now on scene, right? Common Core. Common Core required keyboarding, but not cursive writing. So many districts dropped the cursive. Then, this is all kind of stacking on top of each other. Then the teacher prep programs, new teachers weren't trained to teach cursive, and they had limited time for handwriting in general. So what happened was a decline in the handwriting quality. So you said you do print and cursive mixed. Some people they write slower by hand, or they avoid handwriting tasks altogether.
This
Now,
is
if
why
you think about it, yes, I know. But I want you to think about it in terms, so all of that was happening, right? So I'll give you the years again. The No Child Left Behind was 2001. You have the curriculum cuts. By 2010, Common Core is coming on scene. And what I can tell you about 2010, that was also the point in time, the history, where now we're moving to one-to-one devices or computers on wheels in the hallway. So everybody has access to it, but it's moving class to class. So it was basically a mobile computer lab. Teacher prep programs are not teaching teachers in training the same things.
Yep.
Okay. So now we're talking about, oh my gosh, our kids aren't fluent. They don't know how to read. They don't know how to write. Now let's blame the screens or the technology. But you have to look at the whole picture and the whole history. And this is, I believe, why this generation may be struggling with idea generation, or struggling with their written responses, or struggling with complex sentences, or struggling to even understand a basic concept. I really, you can't just blame one thing. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things to it. But here's what I believe, and I will there are some hills I'm willing to die on. If you know this, but anybody who doesn't know me, you talk to anybody, when I am willing to die on a hill about something, I believe it to my core. And handwriting is something that I believe in so much, because I believe that handwriting is a connection to your brain and to your body. And when you have a connection with your brain and your body, that is where the deep learning is happening. That's where it becomes sticky. Okay.
Yep.
And so more handwriting, dare I say, Rick, more written work. Dare I
100%,
say,
100%.
The
fact that your tests are freaking A, B, C, or D. So I have a 25% of getting it right if I don't know the answer. In my opinion, is one of the stupidest things possible, purely because it is not getting you thinking about the question and actually describing how you actually want to move forward.
But think about it in neurodivergent terms. Okay, think about what you just said in a we always say on this podcast, in our book, in our presentations, literally anywhere, if you are accommodating for your neurodivergent adults and students, you have hit everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
so cursive writing actually is a benefit to neurodivergent learners. And when they don't have it, they have lost a pathway for expression. And this is really what I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
at. The more handwriting, the more creating. The more creative, the more learning is sticky. And it's something that we were talking about in the beginning. We started talking about the TV shows. Think about Sesame Street and think about just for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Sesame Street? There's an episode and it comes on TikTok every so often, and I find myself watching it still. But it
Okay.
was or maybe it was Mr. Rogers. It was one of them. They're in the Crayola factory and
Okay.
they're watching how crayons are being made.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like nobody's talking. Maybe a couple words here and a couple words there, but it's very intentional. And then you
Mm.
start seeing how things are being made. And I just think that there is something we need to go back to more creative expression. We talk about this with our guests. I have been doing it, modeling it, not just saying it, but I'm watercoloring. I'm journaling at least twice a day with my pen and my cursive. And that causes me to then think, ooh, what could I create at work? Or, right?
But this is where the issue is. We're wanting people to create. We have always advocated that there is a balance. It is not the issue I have with Dr.
Uh-huh.
Jared is very much that
You have an issue with Dr. Jared?
he does, because it's the
I
way
don't have
that
an
he
issue
has
with Dr. Jared.
his phrased what he's said is
Because
going
he's
to be put into a point where it's going to be technology needs to be removed from the
okay, but
classroom.
think about it. He was researching it. So we have to remember when researchers are doing research, you know this. Think about back to whenever we were writing the book. I think about this a lot. I'm like, okay, it isn't like somebody's going to pick up our book and it's going to be enjoyable Sunday reading. That is a very intentionally researched book. And the research was focused on the topics at hand. He's just researching that part, Rick. So he's coming up with this,
He's researching this part, and he is basically saying that the education system has adopted way too much technology and has basically made the next generations have a lower IQ than the previous generations.
I mean, in
It
a
is not
simplified
just
way,
and the problem
yes.
the problem and the simple but that's the thing. Most people will take it in that simplified way, meaning people are going to say technology needs to be removed from the classroom.
Okay, but why? Because they
And
aren't critically thinking. And where did they lose their critical thinking skills?
exactly, but this is the problem. It's all about, it goes back to the idea of fast-paced, loud, everything. He is being loud, and he is, like I am right now, he is being loud and getting a point across that is going to be more damaging than actual
I
good,
don't
because
think he, but
everybody's going to be in the
now I
point of we
can't.
need to remove technology.
Okay,
And to
I can't
me,
speak
it's
to his
about we
point.
need to balance.
I can't speak to his
I've always
point.
said
We
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 need
both
balance in
we
everything
both
that we
do.
do. We
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 both
all
do.
say that balance
But
is
listen,
key.
okay. It's my turn yet.
You've been talking for 20 minutes. I got 30 seconds.
Whoever's listening to this podcast back is going to be cracking up. Listen, here's what I want to say. First of all, Dr. Jared, I'm giving all the respect to, because yes, I understand what you're saying, but he's a researcher and researchers are going to come to some conclusions and they're going to share those conclusions. And it is up to us to keep each other in check and go, you know what? That is one perspective. You have to look at, who did he research? Where did he go? How did that happen? Like, when you start looking at that, research and data is always limited. I always say that. It's important, but it's
Yes.
limited. And so, yes, you have to have a balance. What I do want to say is I predict, and even am seeing some shifts in the research that I've done. I predict that cursive will come back. I predict that phonics will be important again because of the parents. This is so ironic. This is ironic. The parents are demanding it. The parents are demanding it, and they have concerns about literacy, and they have concerns about technology in the classroom. But again, I think it's full of irony because they also were part of the problem. And so now it's up to us to become part of the solution. So I want to say, if you saw my post about cursive, and I only posted it, I think, on Facebook, but if you saw it, it's not about nostalgia. I wasn't posting it for nostalgia reasons. I was really posting it because I didn't know how to articulate what I wanted to say in that moment. And I think a lot of what I want to say to people gets lost in my inability to articulate it in that moment. What I'm saying is cursive is so important, and handwriting and writing is so important, not just for, practicing fine motor skills, which I do find that students have difficulty with, but also to improve creativity and fluency and memory and supporting your neurodivergent learners and connecting the students to the learning. And we have to get back to more of that and less of the testing pressure, which is probably another podcast for us in the
Oh yeah,
future
100%,
because
100%, 100%. I do want to just iterate that you made a very good point that
thank you.
you have to look at the data that people are looking at because,
Yes.
and this is what worries me. It really worries me. We listen to scientists, to researchers, to professors, and all that,
Well,
and they're like,
some of
"This
us
is
do.
the answer to what it is." Like, I'll give you an example. The amount of times in the UK I've heard them turn around back and forth of, "Oh, having a glass of wine a day is really good for you," to, "Oh no, alcohol is absolutely the worst thing you can ever do," to, "Actually, just having a glass every so often is very healthy for you," to then not having it. The research, they they can research on such narrow aspects and come to a conclusion that can be very destructive if we're not careful.
Mhm.
And we have to look, as you said, we have to look at the big picture with everything. There's a lady that I found the video of Dr. Jared through another YouTuber who is also I believe, a former English teacher.
Mhm.
And she points out some very key things because, as well, students are not reading at the grade level that they should be.
Mhm.
And technology, in my opinion, is not the root cause. The root
Oh,
cause.
as you said that, do you know what my intuition said? Oh, well,
What?
banning books isn't going to help our fluency or our reading levels. I mean, we got to stop doing that too.
Exactly, exactly. We're It's like we've got a blazing fire and we've gone and turned around and said, "You know what's going to fix this? More fire."
Yeah,
It just does not work.
yes.
It does not work.
Yes.
So my whole thing, and it's not an easy thing. It's like we go for the easiest thing to blame or remove or change and think it's going to change everything. AI is not going to
Mhm.
change everything. AI has shown more cracks than anything else, in my opinion. But that's another story.
Okay, well, I
But
mean, AI,
just
you're getting into AI, and
no, no, no.
I
I'm not.
have
I'm
to
not. I'm
say
not. I'm not.
this.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not.
Oh, you wanna
I'm
retract that, don't you? Because you
I'm
knew where I was
retracting
gonna
that.
go.
I know. I'm going to retract that. But I do believe that AI has shown a lot more cracks. The issue that we're seeing with Gen Z right now isn't purely technology. It is
Mm-mm.
decisions in the curriculum. It is methods in the classrooms that are
Yeah.
dictated by the districts, which is dictated by the curriculum, and also how are those students coming into school in their first year from day one?
Mhm.
Are they
Mhm.
coming into it because they were given a tablet that literally allowed them to go on Snapchat or TikTok or whatever and consume large volumes of information instantly? Are they being shown kid shows that are very fast moving and loud and noisy and everything? These aspects all need to be taken into consideration before we make a unanimous decision of, if it comes to the crunch and they say, "You know what, we've actually found that based on all of those things, yes, we need to remove technology from the classroom." But does that also mean we need to remove technology completely before they come into the classroom? I
Well,
would say
that's up
yes, it
to the
would be. I mean,
that's the parents' responsibility, but here's what I wanna go
yeah.
back and say. I've said this multiple times. I'm pretty sure we've talked about it in our book. I'll find
Mm-hmm.
the excerpt if we need to. I've said it over and over and again. We have to stop blaming the generations for
Mm.
the misses that we're pointing out. We should be looking at that as a mirror, reflecting back to us because we created that. We created it as a whole with these policies, with all the things that were happening, with the parenting decisions and all. We've created that, and we cannot blame the students. We have to really look at how are we going
Absolutely
to improve
not.
it, right? How are we improving it?
Absolutely
Well, I'm
not.
going to say, so I always talk about solutions here. I would say that um more deep reading, more writing, more creativity. um I think don't use technology for the convenience. Like use it
Yes.
for intentional engagement or rigor. Rigor doesn't mean hard.
No.
Like whenever I say, okay, well, I taught a really rigorous class or I took a rigorous class, it doesn't mean it's like so hard that I'm going to fail. Rigor is, can I focus on that topic or that class for a long period of time and be authentically engaged, right? Are we using technology and designing our schools to teach students how to think,
Mm-hmm.
not if they are being compliant?
Yep.
That isn't thinking. Compliance isn't thinking. And if we continue to expect compliance, we are going to continue to get people who don't know how to critically think. Um,
Yes.
and then, yeah, the AI piece is going to come into that. That is a topic that we probably need to do another episode on. We've been talking about it for almost a year. I have lots of thoughts about it that are opposite than what I think people assume. I don't know if I'm an open book and you can just tell, but it's the same thing. Like if I was going back into the classroom today, I would probably use less technology and more handwriting and more bookwork and more worksheets, again to your point, for balance.
Yeah, that's the important thing is balance. It needs to be a shift of, I see that we should be starting with handwriting and problem solving, critical thinking and everything, and then using technology to enhance and widen that knowledge,
But I want
not
to I want to
to
add
build the
to that.
foundations.
Because I think you're right on point, but something popped in my head and I have to say it on this
Tell me.
episode. It has been a current event and it's popped up on my TikTok feed a couple of times, but these social studies standards, specifically in Texas, that are changing and the expectations that they are having for kindergarten, first and second graders to understand these concepts that they are never going to be able to understand because it isn't appropriate for their learning age. Like we talked about, you have to look at the whole picture. Also, what are the standards that are
Hmm,
being expected to meet? And did those even make sense for the way that our brains work at a particular age? Because I say no. And
absolutely.
I think the people making
Absolutely.
decisions on that probably aren't even looking at the research or the brain science, which
No, they're not. They're
that's
not.
my
The, the
soapbox.
the the issue that I have with the standards is when I see things like Dr. Jared, is I feel like so many people have got on their high horse and said, "This is what I found, and we must do this," and they've been thrown in. Like, okay,
Hmm.
yes, we'll do it, we'll do it, we'll do it, we'll do it, rather than taking a step back and going, "What the hell has gone on? Why are we here? Why did we get to this point?
It's an
What can
over
we
reliance
do?"
on the technology. But
Yes.
think about
What
it.
can we do
Companies are
to
doing that too. How many companies are, and we've talked about this too. How many companies are just sliding in the word AI in their marketing? And then what did you tell me? Like if that happens, it's like they're getting investments and people are putting
companies
their,
companies are
yeah.
using AI as a reason for why they've had large volumes of unemployment.
Hmm.
Like they've had to let off a large volume of people for AI reasons, and it's actually seen a growth in their market price, their
Hmm.
share price, which is ludicrous. People are using it as a way to benefit themselves in using it as a buzzword, or, oh, we've got AI, but it's actually not really, we're not really using it, but we're going to say
Okay,
we've got
but
AI for it. And it's just becomes, yeah,
when you
AI
say
is a,
that, when you say that to me, here's what I hear. I hear and see, because I'm neurodivergent and this is how my brain works. This is how it thinks. When you said that, I was seeing and hearing the first part of our conversation. You said the TV programs that kids are watching now are so different than the TV programs that we were watching as kids.
Mm,
Long ago, they were slower. They were slower paced. There was more time to process. You were able
yeah.
to think more.
Mm-hmm.
And now these things are fast and flashy and this and that. And here's my question for you. Do you think that companies today that are pushing AI would be considered the flashy TV program? Let's get it fast. Let's do it faster and quicker. We don't have to
Absolutely.
think. We think less, do more. Think less, do more.
Absolutely.
Think less, do more. And I'm like, is that
Absolutely.
really benefiting anyone
The
except
whole the whole idea of the fast paced is everywhere. In marketing, in TV shows, in
Mhm.
business,
In
even in
music?
relationships,
Mhm.
music, fashion, everything.
Mhm.
I mean, fashion maybe not so much because if you look at what
Oh,
general
fashion for
fashion
sure.
shops.
Because think about it. It's like every season,
Mm,
and then it's not every season now, it's like every month, and then it's like, listen,
no, if you actually look at fashion, this is an interesting one.
it
Go and look
rotates.
and a lot of the
I don't.
more, not the top brand, like expensive, I'm going to pay $1,000 for a t-shirt. The more low-key ones, there's a lot more neutral colors of blacks, whites, grays, beige. It's like cars. The most
This is
common
sounding
colors of
dystopian.
cars. It is. If you think about it, look at what are the most common color of cars.
I know.
Blacks,
Do you know what color
grays,
car? Do you know what
whites.
color my car was? My first car. Do you know what color?
Oh, your first car?
What color do you think it was?
I'm going to say pink just for the hell of it.
That's a great color, but it wasn't pink. It was
No.
green. Ironically, it was like a
As you're
teal
wearing green right
green.
now.
Well, I just thought about it because you were talking about the color of cars, and I was thinking, yeah, all the cars, like I'm looking across the street at my neighbors, white, gray,
Yeah.
white,
Yeah.
black. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's the same with clothing.
Muted
But
tones.
though, yeah, funnily enough, those are the things that are more muted. But then
Mm-hmm.
when we're looking at our phones and everything else, it's loud,
Interesting
noisy.
point.
All marketing materials is very strapline, grab your attention quick. Like I've seen there's news medias in here in Manchester. I'm not going to name them, but the amount of times I see a post on, say, Facebook or Instagram, and I see the strapline. I go to the comments because other people have read it and said, so that you don't need to read, it's not actually referring to this
Yeah,
thing, it's about this. And
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
great, that is literally my TLDR for that article,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not interested. I remember watching a comedian who actually was making comments about how these clickbaity news articles, and it said it was something like one of the Kardashians and what another celebrity were wearing the exact same jeans, and then you look to the picture and you're just like, they're not the same.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this
Well,
type
it's
of
like
media? It's
I
like,
know I've said this
what?
too. I feel like I have a lot of quotes around the things you talked about today. Remember, I said something like, "Attention is the currency. Our attention is the
Yes,
currency."
yes, it
Hmm.
is. It is. And we should be really, we've always talked about how our energy, our attention is a value. It's something that we give
Hmm.
out to people.
Yeah, it's a
And
currency. Hmm.
we should be really looking at, like they say about saving your money, save up for
Well, I was about
retirement,
to say on
invest your
Animal
money.
Crossing, I have 7 million bells on Animal Crossing, and I think of my energy and my time as my bells on Animal Crossing, and I don't post as much. I'm not going on social as much. I think there is
Yes.
going to be a pendulum swing, and we've talked about this as well, more into
Mm-hmm.
the analog space, more reading, more
Yeah.
writing, more
Yeah.
VCR movies. People are I'm tired of paying all of these subscriptions to watch a show here and a show there and a movie
Yeah.
there and this there. I am ready, and I don't know if this is just also our age, Rick, because I don't think if we talked to Jace on the Gen Z desk that he would agree with this. He might. He might, because I think there is still something to say about Gen Z. I think they might be moving in that spot of the
Yeah.
analog life, but I'm just ready to be like, okay, I'm shutting it all down. I have no subscriptions. Like,
Hmm.
it just, life on the farm with farmer fobs is sounding so much better.
Oh yeah, it is. It is. Things eventually do change, and we do swing back to old
Well, because
forms
aren't we really
of
learning
doing
our
things.
lessons? That's why we're swinging back and forth all the time. What did I say
Yeah.
yesterday? They have a scattering about.
But
That's the goal. Scatter our thinking about so that we can't focus on anything.
but the issue is because we're going from, if you think, when was analog, like cassettes, vinyls, when were they around?
The 80s, 90s, the
Exactly.
70s. I know. It's a great
Yeah.
time to be alive.
So it was. And they're all wanting to get, Gen Zs are wanting to go back to that. But
Hmm.
for like millennials, we didn't really experience vinyls and cassettes. We're more CDs. MP3s was when
I like it all.
started coming.
I've almost pulled out
Um,
my MP3 player. That's another thing people are doing. Listen, if you're listening to this podcast, you go on eBay, you go find all your retro stuff now, because I promise you it's going to be much more expensive later. And
yeah,
we will also give you, I should start doing some like trendy shopping things, because I'm telling you, the
that's
more
Tisha's
I
new
go,
TikTok
well,
approach.
no, the more that I go to these, like, these, what do you call them? N- Um,
Thrift
Charity
stores,
shops.
charity
Yes,
shops.
thrift shops, charity stores. The more I go to those, the busier they are. And I'm like,
Yeah.
people, no,
It's because the
it's
quality is
so
actually
busy.
better for stuff
It
that
is better.
are older,
Yes, it is.
compared
Yes,
to
it
what it is
is.
now.
Yes, it is.
The thing that I look at is Gen Z's never experienced the analog side. Millennials didn't only experience some of it.
Or the good
Um,
quality clothing, because they're all going out
yeah,
there to get my J. Crew Ralph Lauren
yeah,
clothing that
they
I've
are
been
because
looking for.
it's
Good
actually better,
quality.
and
Yeah.
that's what they're doing, and that's I think is that is a massive positive thing because we as a civilization, most Western worlds, I would say, is very hung upon technology, the new shiny toy, all those kind of things. And we are tired, especially Gen Z and Gen Alpha, are
Hmm.
tired of the noise that goes on and want a
I think so
simpler,
too.
calmer approach.
I think so too.
Because, and it's showing in the scorings that
But we've
Dr.
just not
Jared obviously
equipped
pointed
them,
out.
right? We needed to
And we
equip
haven't.
them better than we
But in
did.
a
And so,
we were equipping them in something that was so new, and it goes back to, as you say, we can't
how
blame
can you
them,
know? Yeah.
absolutely not. It's like blaming a toddler for
Well, we can't
the
even blame
state of the
ourselves.
country or whatever. It's like
I mean, we
you
could sit
can't.
around blaming ourselves, but like you said, we're just wasting time. We're just
Yeah,
pouring fire. Like, we're not helping the situation. So how do we help the
we're
situation?
not. And
So did the
really, it could be
teacher
down to Gen Z and Gen Alpha to actually
well, they're
address
gonna
what
come in
they
and
want.
save themselves,
Yeah,
probably.
they're at an
I'm
age now where they
wondering
can do that.
I'm wondering the teacher, and I know you've done limited research, but the teacher that
Yes.
was talking about this particular
Yep.
study, what was her advice? Like, her overall
So
advice? Like, what was her
the
thoughts?
biggest things that were coming out. One is from what I've understood, and I apologize if I'm wrong, but I think she had some great points on it. Um, the biggest things is Gen Alpha still can't read. Gen Zs need professors to read for them. There's a lot of teachers that are frustrated with the reading levels of students, like students needing to read at a grade 6 level who can't. Apparently, there is a large percentage of grown adults in the US who struggle to read at even high school level or even middle school level,
That makes me so
which,
sad. It makes me
yeah,
so sad. I like,
it
I'm not
does.
even being over dramatic about that. It really does. I was thinking, and I know phonics is going. I know it's going to be big, and dare I say, uh, you may or may not remember this, and we used to joke about it, but I think it's not a joke anymore. Do you remember Hooked on Phonics? Do you remember Hooked on Phonics worked for me? We'll link it in
No.
the episode, but basically Hooked on Phonics was something that was really popular um, in the 80s and 90s, and I
Okay.
remember people would purchase it, and like parents would purchase it and have their kids go through it. And I remember, I just think we're back to that. They're going to need support, and also the
They are.
parents need support.
The
I
the
say that, but every group needs support. And if people are just walking blindly into all the things, which is what we've done that with
Yeah,
technology. Nobody
we
knew.
have.
And I think we
No.
maybe be doing it with
So
AI too. So just
yeah.
let me just slide
Yeah,
that in.
that is my concern as well with regards to AI. But going back to this video, she was saying that one thing she loved to do was have go through books with her class.
Yes, I
Whether
do
it was
too.
her
I did
reading
too.
out, having
I did
students.
too.
I did that. I did that at school. Was it my most exciting thing? No, because with me being dyslexic, I was always petrified of being the one that had to read.
You know what?
Um,
I taught, I this is a fun topic. I taught British literature, which is senior level, and we read God, if you know anything about British literature, like it is hard to read, but I read
it's
Beowulf
very
with my
hard.
students.
It
Beowulf
is hard.
is my least favorite thing to read with students, but reading in class with my teacher, this is a true story, not even making this up. My sophomore year of school, I had Mr. Chappell, who then went on to become the principal. Mr. Chappell was my sophomore I was in English 2 honors class with him, and he did that with us. He read Of Mice and Men. We've been
Yep.
talking about the Of
Mice
Mice
and
and
Men is
Men
one
book.
I did.
And I think, now that I think back to it, it was that class with Mr. Chappell, and I have never talked about him actually before, but as I think about this and as this episode comes to a close, Mr. Chappell doing that with us and discussing the book with us and talking about the words, because we also read, I think, Huckleberry Finn. There were some really good books in there, and I was able to learn the why behind the author's writing, and critically
Mm,
think why certain phrases and words were used and what it
yep.
meant for the history that was happening around them in that time frame, that time period when they wrote it. I just think there is so much to that, and it goes back to us talking about situational comedies. We need more of that. The
We do.
kids need to learn how to be human with each other. We need
Uh-huh.
to relearn how to be human with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, just going back to what she was saying, she liked to have a number of novels. She said that she
Yep.
went through the Chronicles of Narnia
Yep.
with her students, all 7 books,
Yes.
including other novels. And it was the curriculum standards and the
Mhm.
district that stopped her
Yep. Yep.
from
Yep.
continuing to go through
That's what I'm saying.
novels.
Listen,
And
you
it
you
is,
you want the kids to be great at reading and phonics and comprehension. You have to set them up for that. And if you aren't
yeah,
making decisions, and I'm not talking to the teachers, I'm not talking to the principals, I'm not talking to the school boards, I'm talking to the people who are making the policies. It
yeah.
has to start with that.
Yes, it does. It really does. And I think that's also goes back to any parents, guardians, friends, or anything reading to children at a very young age is
Agreed.
so
Agreed.
important. So
Agreed.
important. Don't be,
You can't do something if
don't,
you're not doing it yourself, though. So, as a parent,
exactly.
I'm going to say, I don't care how you're reading. It can be with the actual book, it can be on your Audible, it can be
Yep.
however you're taking it in. But if you aren't modeling reading, then
Yes.
you're probably not going to be reading to your kids. And something I took on myself,
Yes.
readers are leaders and leaders are readers.
Yeah. That is a great, great quote. Um, I think we'll stop it there. I think it's a great end to the episode. If there are any opinions, I'll leave the links in the description as well of videos that I'm referencing. and articles as well that we've seen regarding Gen Zs have a lower IQ. Let us know in the comments your thoughts. If you've been listening on Spotify or YouTube, please let us know if you've enjoyed the video or audio or wherever you're listening
If
to.
you agree or
Give
disagree, just like it and share it.
just Yeah, exactly.
Even comment the bad comment. We want them all. I'll
Yeah,
use your comment on my TikTok page.
we're open for discussions. We always are. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's Tish said, if you've enjoyed it, let us know. Give us a like, give us a follow, give us a review. We greatly appreciate it. The more that we get, the more these kind of materials get released. Also, let us know if there's anything you'd like us to look into and talk about on a future episode. If you want to follow us on any of the socials, all the links are down in the description as well. We'd love to see you on there. And Tish, any final words?
No, leaders are readers and readers are leaders. And reading and writing are going to always empower you more than you believe.
Amazing words. Until next week, we'll see
See you
you then.
later.
Bye for now.
Bye.